Hey everybody, this is Chris Miles here, cash flow expert and the financial advocate for the entrepreneur here. So excited to be able to welcome you out this today as we talk about how to find $5,000 in just 45 minutes. Yes, that's right. That's what I said. I know it's a big task, but I'm up for this challenge and I hope you are too. Anyways, I'm really excited because this is something that's really become the flagship of what I teach, even though I don't always teach it publicly. As you well know, there's many variety of topics that I'll teach on related to business and money, but ultimately, it really comes down to how do we have more cash? How do we have this? Because really, when it comes down to is that cash flow creates freedom, and the way it does that is because when you have more cash flow coming in, it creates more options. When you have more options, there's more freedom. Give you an example. Let's just go ahead and take a moment, close your eyes. Remember, I'm watching you. Close your eyes for just a moment. And I want you just to think about right now that if your situation, all of a sudden, your income went down by just, well, I shouldn't say just, but say your income went down by $2,000 a month. What would that feel like all of a sudden? All of a sudden you knew that whatever you were making currently today went down by $2,000 a month, or your expenses went up by $2,000 a month, even though your income stayed the same. How would that feel? What kind of stress would you feel there? Would you be okay? Would you feel a little bit stressed? Would you have different conversations with your spouse, different conversations with your kids? Would it be pleasant? Would it be unpleasant? What would it be? What would it be like? What things would you have to stop doing? Okay, now get out of that, scratch that out, take a deep breath. Whew, well, that's not there anymore. All right, now get back to your current situation where you are. Aren't you grateful you're not at that place? Now let's go back. Now let's go the opposite direction. Now picture yourself now having an extra $2,000 a month. Now this might be 2,000 more in income, might be $2,000 less of expenses that you're not paying anymore. But now you have an extra $2,000 a month. Now how does that feel? What kind of conversations are you having with your spouse or with your children now? What are you able to do today that you weren't able to do before? Okay, what becomes possible now? That's what we want to focus on. That's what we mean by cash flow is when you have more money coming in, this is like your income, this is like your expenses, then what's going out. Now, it's not just by being cheap. This is not what we want to do. We don't want you to live off rice and beans to get here. We actually want you to enjoy life today. Actually, to live off rice and beans and more, right? To have your freedom, have your cake and eat it too, so to speak. We want to have both, where you have more income than expenses. And I found firsthand that this is where real freedom is created. When you're like this, there's more expenses than income, it's bad. It's not good, right? That's when you really create a lot of stress because when you have less cash flow, it creates more worry. Do you remember feeling like how you were restricted? How it almost felt like it was tighter, right? It was even harder to breathe maybe for you. You know, you probably had a harder time figuring out what to do or what kind of conversation you'd have. It would create more stress and more panic, right? Where on the opposite extreme, when you have more cash flow, but you notice it has more, you have more options. You feel more free. And think about this. I didn't give you $1 million. I didn't say you now have $1 million, something that seems like maybe an unreasonable amount of money, right? It wasn't about that. It was about how do we have more cash right now? How do we have an extra $2,000 a month? That's just $24,000 a year. It would take you over 40 years to get to $1 million with that. But here's the key. Notice how much more freedom it created. That is the difference of what I teach here is that it doesn't take a lot of money to create a lot more freedom. And then it really does come down to cash flow. You want to become financially free, you got to figure out how to create more cash flow in your life where there's a lot more income coming in than expenses. That's where there's freedom. That's where there's breathing room. That's where there's less stress. And especially in business, that's where there's power because then you show up more powerfully in your business when you know you don't need the money because you work in your business not because you have to, but because you want to. That's the kind of freedom we want. That's what we're going for. And I'll tell you, I know what it's like to be in a place where there wasn't that financial freedom. Yeah, I actually was in a place where I was able to overcome a hole of $16,000 a month between my business and my personal expenses. So income was here, but expenses were up here, right? Way up here with $16,000 more a month than what I was making. That was crazy. And the cool thing is, in just over 3 years, I was able to pay off over $900,000 of debt. By the way, it wasn't just becoming debt free that got me there. In fact, even if I became completely debt free, I would have still been in the hole. There's so much more to it than becoming debt free to become financially free. But I'll tell you, I've also been in a situation where I've been able to help people, on average, of hundreds of people, free up $33,000 a year. Well, that's money we free up from expenses or income that we increase by creating that extra buffer there of $33,000 a year in just the first year alone, much of that ongoing year after year. And even in my own life, I know what it feels like to have that financial freedom because I was able to retire when I was just 28 years old, working a couple hours a week and only having $2,000 in the savings account. Now that quickly changed because I had a lot more cash flow coming in, but I'm telling you that that's the difference. You don't have to have a ton of money saved up to be financially free. In fact, it just takes having that freedom, having that cash flow there where you have more options. And when you feel like you have more options, when you know you can have choice in the matter, that's where there's real financial freedom. Does that make sense? So that's what we're aiming for. But to do that, you really have to understand the principles first and then strategy second. What I'm going to teach about today is going to be both. Is what are those key principles? What's that perspective you need to have in order to really find that freedom? Because if you don't know this or not, you might know this, maybe you don't. But many people don't realize that even if you have all the money coming in, even if you have all the cash flow coming in, it won't necessarily create financial freedom if you don't have the right perspective. On the flip side, you also have to have strategies. You can't just think your way to wealth. Think and Grow Rich is a great book, but you know what? If you really read into it, there's a lot more than just thinking involved. There's a lot of doing. There's a lot of acting. You got to have the right principles first and the right strategies to match up that second to create the best results in the fastest manner possible. That is the goal we're going for. And so we're always looking at principles first, strategy second. Whenever I've done it reversed, people lose money. We've kept it principles first, strategy second. It always works when applied correctly and applied consistently. So let's talk about that perspective you need to have. The first thing that you need to do is you got to understand that there's 3 perspectives, right? 3. The first one is a spender. So the spender's on the far end of the extreme over here. They're just on this side over here where they're constantly money's going out but not coming back in, right? It's spending, the money just spends away, and it's being blown. The money's being blown. It doesn't come back to you. It doesn't actually do anything for you. You just make just enough money to then spend it again, and you always feel like you're working for a paycheck. And spenders get a bad rap. I mean, granted, they are in a place of scarcity and fear, but it's not because they're just these absolute like drug addicts necessarily. There are those people too that are spenders that need something like Spenders Anonymous, right? They have a money problem that way. But for the most part, it's usually a perspective of either one, you had a parent that was really, really cheap, and you don't want to be like that parent. You said, that parent never gave us memories. They never invested in us. There's always someday we might do this, but we can't afford anything. And so you're tired of hearing that as a kid, and so you decided to go the opposite extreme and spend. And what happens is that you still don't have freedom there, but at least you are trying to create memories. But it doesn't always work. Some spenders, they spend because they just say, listen, if I don't spend on things that I love and enjoy today, you get spent on things I don't enjoy. So might as well spend on things I love, right? So that's kind of what that is. On the flip side, there's a saver. Savers also have a hard time. These are people that can often become hoarders, right? You can never save enough money to become financially free in this perspective. Even if you think there is a dollar amount that you think is the right amount, you'll get there and say, it's not enough. I don't feel any better. Yeah, cool. I can brag a little bit to my friends. I'm better off than other people. You'll try to use this pride of comparison, but you'll never feel financially free yourself. You'll always want to keep saving. You'll never want to start spending money. You'll never become a spender of that sort. You'll only save to consume, but you never want to consume it. And so you're always saving and saving and saving, and you always want to pay off that debt as fast as possible, but there's no financial freedom when you do that. That is the scary part of being a saver, is that there's no financial freedom there either. It's still in scarcity. It's still rooted in fear. And you can never have financial freedom when you're rooted in scarcity, because scarcity takes money out of your pocket. It doesn't put it in. It only takes money away from you. So we got to find that middle ground, which is a steward. A steward takes the best of the spender and the saver and puts it into one person. Because savers, what they do really well is at least they're willing to be wise with their money. They're willing to think about it a little bit. But in a saver perspective, they think about it too much, right? They're always thinking about money. They never end up doing anything with it. But spenders always do something with it, but it's never really wise. But at least they're willing to use money. Money is meant to be used. Stewards understand this. And from a very much even a deep mental as well as even a deep spiritual principle, stewardship is essential for creating wealth. In fact, it's the only way to truly create wealth in your life. And in fact, it's the only way that you're actually be in a state of abundance and make this work. Because stewards are actually, funny enough, stewards will actually spend more money than spenders. But when they use money, they use it in a way that creates value for people that will come back to them, and they'll also make more money than spenders or even savers in many, many cases, because they're always looking to grow and increase, multiply, beautify, edify, make everything better in the world. They want to use all the resources they have for the benefit of other people. Now, when you do that, dollars follow the value you create for other people. So when you're using all these resources to benefit other people, you tend to give the most, spend the most, in fact. But when you're doing it, it's a way that's actually productive. It comes back because people want to exchange money with you because they want to have you in their life. They want to have the value that you're willing to offer because you're willing to give something of true value. They say, listen, these dollars here, these don't mean anything unless I can use it for things that give me what I want in my life. And stewards are always looking for ways to solve problems and serve people and give them what they want. And when you give people enough of what they want, enough comes back to you as well. And so they're always focused on that. I like to look at it this way, is that stewards will consume money so they can produce more. While spenders and savers, they'll actually go and create income. They'll produce money so then they can spend it. They can use it. They can consume it. See, savers are always looking for that retirement, that someday retirement, but they're never looking to create value in that way. They're not looking to do a whole lot. They're just looking to get enough just to save for enough for them, themselves, and maybe their spouse, maybe some kids, but ultimately just to take care of themselves. Stewards are looking to see the family as being their whole world is their family. They want to create value for everyone, and they want to increase and grow. They don't care about retirement as much because they love what they do. They do what they love. And it's not just do what you love and the money will follow. They'll do what they love in a way that they'll never want to retire. They'll only want to retire from the things they hate, not from the things that they love. So they're always focused on creating value. It's a lifelong ambition of a steward to do that. And if you focus on that, you focus on abundance and valuing people and not things, not becoming the hero, not the victim, and doing all these things to remain in abundance and to focus on improving people's lives and the world around you, you realize that money isn't so mysterious anymore. In fact, it's actually easier to create money because you're always focused on giving people what they want and helping serve them and solve problems that they have. And when you provide those solutions, they want to pay for those solutions and you make more money. And see, stewards are really focused on accelerating money, not just accumulating money. You understand that all the financial advice you've been given for years, for your entire life, has always been about accumulating money. It's always been about saving and saving, paying off that debt, never spending anything, right? Never living, sacrificing, suffering, delaying gratification forever, in fact, until that someday you might be able to use it if you're not dead by that time. And you're never able to enjoy that money. That just seems ridiculous to me. Doesn't it seem like that to you too? Is that it's about how to have greater wealth today and tomorrow. So it's creating acceleration. How do we create wealth right now instead of accumulating for years? And see, every other financial expert, every other financial person out there will tell you to save and put it away and never to look at it, never to touch it. In fact, put the money away from you, put it outside of your business where you can't even use it. And so you're putting it into things you're gambling in because you have no control over it. You lose freedom. You lose really any sense of real peace of mind because your money's not in your control. It's not in a way that's able to be used to create value today that can go and serve people in a way that'll come back. Just like water. Water is best when it flows. It creates more life when it flows, not when it just flows out and stays away, or when it comes in and you just hoard it like a pond and creates a lot of algae and scum, but no real life around it. That's where you create that flow, and you got to have the money flowing through, not just accumulating it. So understand that every financial person out there is telling you to accumulate money, and that is the slow way to wealth. In fact, you may never live long enough to ever enjoy that wealth because you can never accumulate fast enough because there's taxes, there's inflation, all these things are going against you that stop you from being able to get real, true value. And so we want to focus on accelerating our wealth, not accumulating. Does this make sense so far? For those of you online, just go ahead and chat in here. Just say, hey, Chris, I'm with you. Let's go. Let's move. Who's with me? Shalom's like, I'm following. Charlie, welcome. Brett, yep. Just got in. Yep. Welcome. Welcome. Glad to have you. Totally makes sense. Good. This, by the way, these are the core principles you have to understand before we talk about these strategies. Because if you do these strategies from a spender perspective will ruin them. From a saver perspective, you'll also ruin them because you'll always come from a place of fear and scarcity. It'll never be enough. It'll never be quite the same. And so the stewardship perspective, really, I can go into this for hours, and I'm not. That's why I do more of my live events where we really focus and hone in on this and how this works. But again, I got, like I said, 45 minutes to show you 5,000 bucks, so I better get moving. So let's get into it. Let's get into those cash flow secrets. What are those key tips that I've seen from hundreds of my clients of what's been the top things that have helped them free up the cash. It's not always just about being cheap. In fact, a lot of times it's not about being cheap. It's the opposite. But from the stewardship perspective of what we can do to be able to manage the money we have and be able to have more of it. So the first one, when it comes to these cash flow secrets, and I'll tell you, I've tested this with hundreds of people, and I've known thousands of people have done this, and we've helped people free up millions and millions of dollars. In fact, my vision, by the way, over the next 3 years, and hopefully this includes you too, is that I want to help tens of thousands of people. It'll probably be between 20 to 30,000 people that will be needed to do this. But 20 to 30,000 people that will free up at least $10,000 a year. That's at least $800 a month, to then be able to create a $1 billion ripple effect. I want to create that $1 billion of benefit in people's lives. So far, it's been about $60 million in the last 5 years. I want to do $1 billion in 3. And this is why I'm so excited to be able to help you guys, whether you're on live or whether you're watching the recording later on. So these secrets, they work. They've been proven. They worked in my own life. This is what helped get me out of my hole that I had that was $16,000 a month. But it's also helped hundreds of my clients free up, on average, $33,000 a year. So here we go. Number one is start to track your money. As stewards, you want to be able to know what's coming in and what's going out. Notice I didn't just say track your expenses. This is what a saver mentality will say, is just track the expenses, but they'll ignore the income. Spenders will look at the income but ignore the expenses. Again, we want to do both. We want to definitely pay attention to the money coming in because we want more money coming in than what's going out. But we also want to be wise with what the money is going out, what it's being used for. Can you enjoy money? Yes. You can do things that are actually fun. Right now, this is why I don't have my usual backdrop, is because I'm not home. I'm actually vacationing, seeing family. We just last week decided, we need to see some family members. My father's been ill for the last several months. My mom, she has her birthday today, in fact. And so we said, perfect time. It's spring break for the kids. The stars are aligning. Let's just go. And that's been so much fun to invest in my family, invest in those memories. And the only way to really truly know you can do that is if you're tracking your money. You can't have freedom if you don't know what's coming in and going out. Otherwise, if you just randomly do things spontaneously, you're in fear the whole time of, oh, do I need to be cheap? Do I need to not spend money? Do I need to eat McDonald's every day and get our family sick so we're all fat, sick, and nearly dead on vacation? Or are we actually going to enjoy it and actually have fun along the way and create good memories? And of course, some of the best memories don't require money. I know that. Some of the best things that kids are remembering actually were free, ironically enough. It tends to happen every time. But only that true freedom can happen when you're tracking money. I had one client where she wanted to retire her husband. She's in network marketing and direct sales. And she said, I want to get my husband retired from his job. He's working 60 hours weeks. I want to get him retired. The funny thing is it took us about a month and a half to finally get them to really know their business numbers and their personal finances, and they were able to do it. And guess what? We were able to retire her husband it was actually a year ago. He had a nice little retirement party and everything. He's a whopping age of about 40. He was in his early 40s, so I know it was an old retirement party, but it was great to be able to see that. And it just took them knowing where they were and saying, here's what's necessary to make in your business to then bring home, and then you're able to know that you can make enough money to have him working with you in the business. And now he does. And it's so awesome. I've seen people where they didn't track money. If you say you're too busy to track your money, I'm telling you, you're losing at least $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. For you, this one tip alone would be worth the $5,000 plus right there. I had another woman just like that. She said, hey, Chris, I'm so busy. I got to keep working. I have no time to track my money. We found $1,500 a month. That's $18,000 a year just by tracking her money and finding out where she could actually cut down on some of the expenses that were just being wasted. They weren't even useful for her. She didn't even know she was spending that money. The worst I've seen, one of the worst was $5,600 a month from somebody just eating out. That's the worst I've seen from eating out. Other ways I've seen was a guy that both in his business and his personal life, we were able to find almost $300,000 that year, $16,000 a month just in his practice. He was a dentist. We were able to find that in his practice. Just money, he said, it wasn't like money I needed. It was just money I was wasting, like bad marketing costs and things like that. And that's the thing is you want to see if your money is being used productively. Is it really creating the return as a steward you want to become? Is it helping you increase your stewardship, or is it taking it away from you? We want to increase it and grow it, make it bigger, right? And so you got to track your money. A great tool to use for your personal finances is Mint.com. Mint is a great resource. If you have a business, I recommend using QuickBooks for that business only, not for personal. Personal, use Mint, business, QuickBooks. Here's why. I love to be ambitiously lazy. I like to work really fast so I can play hard. It's work hard, play hard mentality. And so if I want to do that, I need systems and tools. These are easy tools. One, Mint.com is free. QuickBooks is very low cost. Mint.com is free. I can get all my finances downloaded into one place. All my checking and savings accounts, all the loans and credit cards and mortgages and things like that, all in one place. Car loans, you name it. Student loans, all in one place, as well as some investments and things like that. All in one place, you can see it right there, real time. And what's even cooler is you can track that money. You can track, and I recommend each week tracking for about 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes max a week. That's it. No more than 15 minutes a week. Track your money between business and personal. I mean, is that something you can invest just that little bit of time per week to be able to create great financial freedom that can last for generations? Isn't that worth it? Of course it is. It's simple to do, and it's so easy to use. Once you get it set up, it's simple to use. I seriously, Mint.com, just my personal finances, I spend no more than 5 minutes a week updating that. Piece of cake. It's super simple, super easy. I couldn't endorse it more. And the fact is that, it's free. So what better than free, right? Great thing to use. Remember this, is that a small leak can sink your great ship, like Ben Franklin says. You got to make sure you're really tracking it, really focusing, because most people, what I've seen is it's not like one big, huge leak. Every once in a while I find that where one thing that we teach them to do creates a huge result. But a lot of times just the small little things. Sometimes it's like, hey, look, you spend $150 a month for Comcast. Is it really worth it? What are you using? The DVR. Great. Do you realize you can use Netflix for the same thing for $8 a month? Or you can use Hulu Plus and stay on top of all your shows. I use a Roku box, actually. A Roku box, I pay like $60 or so for the Roku box. And the great thing is I can get Netflix and Hulu streamed through it, and other channels, PBS Kids. I can watch everything. There's even sports channels. I watch the presidential debates even on there, all for part of that. So I pay $17 a month plus the one-time cost of the box. And that was it. It was like, this is awesome. I mean, and we've done that for years. I mean, it's saved us literally thousands of dollars in the last few years because we just said, listen, we don't need, the satellite TV. Some people want it, great. But for me, I'm like, listen, I can use that $100 a month or so elsewhere and use it much more effectively, right? So things like that. Number 2 is selling assets. As a steward, what you're looking for is how to maximize all the resources you have. Now, these are both tangible financial resources, and these are resources that are not tangible, things held within you. I truly believe we're put on this earth to bless people's lives. And I believe that we have innate talents and gifts within us that we can use. Those are also assets. Now, I'm not going to focus on that. That's more my program, Find Your Divine Genius, that I talk a lot about that. I want to talk more about the financial assets that most people don't see. And so I'll get people to say, hey, Chris, I just don't know where I'm going to get the money. And I'll say, well, let's find out. Are there any things that we're not using? Do you have extra vehicles or things that you really don't use that often that you can just either rent on the occasion that you do use it? Things like water sport type of vehicles, right? Or things like that. Now, if you use it on a regular basis, great, keep it. I think it's awesome. I had somebody who had a cabin, and I said, that's awesome. I love cabins. I love staying in the woods. He said, yeah, it's a lakefront property. It's a great place. I said, awesome. How often do you use it? Maybe 2 weeks out of the year. Okay, 2 weeks out of the year. All right. Um, how much do you pay for this again? And we found out he was paying about $13,000 a year between the payments, and that's not even including maintenance and everything else. He probably spends closer more like $15,000 to $20,000 a year on this property. I said, tell you what, you've got about $50,000 of equity in this property. Cash is sitting in this property doing nothing for you. What if we were to sell this property, get $50,000 in cash that we can use today for something else, something that could create and increase your stewardship more, improve upon your business and make more money in your business, whatever it might be. What if we do that, save yourself the $13,000 or $15,000 a year, and you know what, and just go and rent a cabin for 2 weeks out of the year for maybe $1,000, $2,000 or so dollars for the entire year. Why not just save the extra $10,000+ a year and go rent a cabin? And you don't have to worry about maintenance, cleaning up, or all that kind of stuff. You just rent it and leave, and you can even stay at different locations. Don't have to be the same place. What if you could just do that? And he said, wow, I never really considered that before, Chris. I said, exactly. That's what's so awesome. You know, I had another guy where he was using the property every single weekend. I said, great, keep it. It's awesome, wonderful. But I had another guy that wasn't that case. And this is a guy out in Colorado. He had a kind of a condo that he had, and he was saving up for when his kid went to college, which was 6 years away. His kid was only 12 years old. He said, I want to get this condo, keep paying it down on the mortgage to the point where I could have him own the property, and then he rents it out to roommates. I said, okay, what's that do for you right now? Because you and your wife are both working about 60 to 80-hour weeks. They're both working in the same business. They work together, and they're working separately, by the way. I mean, so they're both working 60 or 80 hours a week, hardly seeing each other, hardly getting away, not enjoying life at all. It's creating lots and lots of stress and just going crazy. I'm like, that's not worth it. That's not life. And so I said, you know what? You've got about $70,000 of equity in this property, and he still owed like over $100,000. I said, even if you pay this down in 6 years, you'll only pay down to about $70,000. You'll still have a mortgage payment. There won't be any freedom here. And I asked him, I said, well, how much money are you netting right now as you're renting it out without your son in it? You're renting out the college students right now. How much are you renting out? How much are you making net? He said, oh, about $100 a month. I said, wait, you've got $80,000 of equity in this property. $70,000 of equity in this property. You're only making $100 a month. So what if you sold this property off and you took $40,000 of that 70? Even if you sold for a little bit less, you took $40,000 of that. We could pay off 3 credit cards and free up $1,100 a month. Now you'll lose $100 a month, but you'll free up $1,100, meaning you net $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year. What if you did that? He said, yeah, but Chris, what do I have to show for myself? I don't have what if I sell off all my assets, what do I have to show? Well, first, you still own a home. Secondly, what do you have to show? $1,000 a month. That's freedom. That's time you guys can actually get away from your practice. So you don't have to make $50,000 a month in your business just so you and your wife can make ends meet. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. You're gonna lose your family. You guys are gonna end up divorced and not having any real freedom, and that'll cost you a heck of a lot more than $100 a month. And it's costing you your freedom in your life right now. He's like, yeah, but Chris, I just can't do that. And he never did. He didn't take my advice. I'm like, that's retarded. And still to this day, he's just going like crazy, chicken with his head cut off, no freedom, even if he makes $40,000 or $50,000 a month in his business, he still is broke. I don't want you there at all. That's not what we want. So what are those assets? What are those things you can use? How about clutter in your garage? Can you use that to sell and make more money from it? What can you do to make it more productive? I sold off my favorite speakers last year because I was sitting in my garage for 4 years because it didn't work in my new home that I had. It just didn't work with the shape of the room and stuff. And so I finally sold them off for a few $100. I took that few $100 and I used it elsewhere. It's about that stewardship. How can you be a better steward? How can you use the best of your resources? Maximize what you have. If you're not going to use it, lose it. Sell it, donate it, get the tax write-off that way or whatever it takes, but get rid of it. That's what we try to do. Let's talk about debt, because debt's a fun one, isn't it? Here's the first thing about debt, because everybody teaches that's a horrible thing. You need to get angry, you need to get mad. That's retarded, because you really should not fear debt. Fear is scarcity. Scarcity drives money away from you. We do not want to drive money away. So do not fear debt, but do respect it for what it is. It can either help you or hurt you. And when you're in a stewardship perspective, see, if you're a spender, debt is always bad, because you're just going to blow it. If You're a saver. Debt's going to create stress because you're always worried that somebody's going to take something away because you always want to own things, even though when you die you never own anything anyways. But you always want to own stuff. As a steward, you realize that really everything in life is stewardship. Everything, including taking out loans. Will you be wise with it? Will you use it in a way that's productive? Now, if you're just using loans to consume and you're planning to be irresponsible with it, not a good thing. That's not being a wise steward. Wise stewards will use loans when they know it can create more value. They can increase, grow, multiply, and edify. That's when they use it. They use it wisely. And so when you do use, if you are going to use loans, make sure you're wise with it. If it's going to help, I look at it like this. If it's like a magic ATM, if you put a dollar bill into this ATM and it spit $2 back out, well, wouldn't we want to put every single dollar we could possibly put in that? Now, in fact, when we even say, hey, buddy, can I borrow $1 from you? Put that dollar in, and I'll pay you, heck, if I'm going to get $2 back, I'll pay you $1.25 in principal and interest. I'll let you take it because I'll keep the 75 cents that I made with using none of my own money at all. By the way, this is what banks do all the time to us, constantly. And so how do we use it in a way that's most productive? You know, if you're able to use it in your business, you know you can create more. I look at it this way: if I can get say it's a $20,000 loan. In fact, I've done this before. $20,000 loan in my business when it would only cost me about $110 a month. Well, my biggest concern is, can I make more than $110 a month? So like SBA loans, for example, in a business, right? That's what it was. It was $110 a month for $20,000, or $126 a month for $25,000. If I can't make $126 a month in my business with 25 grand, I shouldn't be in business, right? I mean, that's obviously not a good use of stewardship. But if I know I can make thousands of dollars a month with my business with just $126 a month, it's a no-brainer. Of course I'm going to use that. Keep my money freed up just in case something's going to happen, in case of emergencies. Keep that cash on hand. Not use every single dollar of cash, and then all of a sudden something bad happens and you're stuck. That's what most people do, and this is why there's a rubber band effect. They grow money and then it shrinks when something happens. It grows and shrinks and grows and shrinks, and they feel like they never get ahead. Does this sound familiar at all, whether it be for you in your life or somebody else you know? This happens all the time, especially of a saver mentality, because they never want to let it go, and they kind of constantly keep using cash that's not productive. So it depends. Now, there are times we do want to pay off debt. So this is when you want to do it. I found this out firsthand. I said, there are some loans that cost me more, where I know that if I put in my business, I may or may not be able to make more than this. So for example, say you've got a $5,000 car loan that you're paying $500 a month. Man, that's a lot of money. Maybe we want to focus on paying that sucker off, get rid of that $5,000 car loan, pay that off. Now, most people tell you to pay off the credit card. I'm going to tell you to ignore the interest rate. Don't do that. And again, I can go into a lot of detail about why, but I'm just going to say this, is that it's all about cash flow. You know, just like Megan Trainor says, it's all about that base. In this case, it's all about that cash flow, right? It's all about how do we free up that money as much as possible so that even if your income does this, your expenses are down here, so it doesn't go below where you create stress. It stays above this. And so if I had a $5,000 credit card, then I'm going to pay $150 a month on, let's just say, right? And actually, for most people, it's not even going to be that much. It might be $120, $130 a month, right? Versus $5,000 car loan at $500 a month, regardless of the interest rate, I will pay off that car loan, not the credit card like everybody else tells you to do. You pay off that car loan. Stop cutting up your credit cards and freaking out emotionally. Look at what it does for real life, because real life will create much more real emotions than thinking that interest is going to cost you. Because if you pay off that $500 a month car loan, you're going to say, wow, I don't have to pay that $500 a month. I can use that to pay down that credit card. If there's a bad month, I don't have to pay down that credit card. I have choice. I have option. More cash flow creates more options. When you have more options, you have more freedom, right? So again, I can't go into this a lot in depth. This is why I do a lot of my own big events that I do as well. Now there's taxes. Taxes are a big one. Again, I'm not an accountant, so I do not want to tell you that this is advice I'm going to give you. But I'm going to give you a few pointers that probably your accountant won't give you. Sadly enough, that accountants, I wish they would teach you more, but they just don't. Most of them are passive. They just ask for your numbers at the end of each year and say, great, here's your tax bill, or here's your return. Pay me my money. That's pretty much what most accountants do. They're passive accountants. Do not go for passive accountants. I want active accountants. If they're just taking your numbers and spitting them out and not teaching about taxes, fire them. If you're a business owner, they're telling you to get IRAs. Also fire them, because they don't understand the business owner's perspective, and they could be costing you thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars because of that bad advice they're giving you. So it's all about how do we create more with that. And so taxes, good example. If you have a business right now, if you don't have a corporation, you should probably have one. What kind just depends. You should have an attorney set up, not your accountant. Accountants are practicing law without a license when they set up corporations for you, and they're probably doing it wrong anyways. Have an attorney do it for you. You might want an LLC or maybe an S corp. I'll tell you, with an S corp, it saved me tons of money in my taxes. I remember it was funny. I paid about a $5,000 tax bill one year, but then I made double the money, and I paid only about $2,500 the next year. So even though I made double the money, I paid half the taxes, all because I switched to have a corporation instead. Because corporations can actually restructure the way you get taxed, or you get taxed less. I won't get into all the details, but something you should look into. I've had people where they've done that and freed up tens of thousands of dollars doing just this one little thing by having a different corporation. I heard of a dentist who's making $200,000 a year, and his accountant keeps telling him not to have a corporation, no corporation at all. One, that's horrible when it comes to liability. If he gets sued, all of his assets, business and personal, are exposed. There's no separation of personal and business. Ridiculous. I think his accountant should be fired and then sued practically, especially if something were to happen. Bad, horrible advice. But on top of that, he's overpaying at least $20, $30+ thousand a year, every single year for the last couple decades. I mean, that's a lot of money when you really start to add that up. So don't do that. I've had other people have freed up a lot of money there, just in different ways. Usually we'll free up at least a few $1,000 a year. For many of you, these tax savings tips will probably free up at least $5,000 in the next year for you. Another one is hiring your kids. I have one person. She's in network marketing as well, and she actually has 6 kids. When she realized she could pay them almost $6,000 a year with a decent job, and that money paid to them is tax free, and they can use that money to then pay for their own expenses, for whether it be for sports, for extracurricular activities, clothes, other things that you normally pay for kids anyways you can't write off. Now she can use that money to then pay for their stuff, or they can pay it for themselves. And now she's paying them tax-free money. Holy cow. She's like, wait, Chris, you're telling me I probably just about freed up $18,000 a year? My accountant came back and said, no, that's not, she didn't exactly calculate that right. It's close to about $13,000 or $14,000 a year. Sorry, way off. Still, that's money that she has paid the same amount of money to herself, right? Same money was coming into her to home from her business, but saved $13,000 a year just by paying her 6 kids. Pretty sweet, huh? Another one too is corporate rent. If you have a home office, you can do some things where you actually have your company. If you have a corporation, this also helps. Company pays you personally for the use of your house. Let's say it's like 1 day a month. Say that's 12 days a year. If you pay like Marriott type fees, just like you would for a Marriott, paying for a room there, you're paying for all the use of internet and utilities and the commodities, sorry, amenities, everything else, right? All these things you're paying. If you paid yourself, say it's $1,250 a day for the use of that, times 12 days a year, right? That's $15,000 a year that you can then pay yourself tax-free. Save yourself, depending on your tax bracket, between $3,000 and $6,000 a year right there. If you're profitable in business, especially if you're making profit in your business, that one thing alone, it will again also make you at least $5,000 this year. So huge stuff. I mean, more than I can say. And again, I'm not an accountant. I can't tell you what to do, but there are lots of cool ways, more than I even mentioned, that you could save on taxes. And again, a lot of times with my events, I actually will have my CPA come in and teach some of these tips for you. Next one is income. I want to talk about this one. There's lots of ways to create more income. One way is you can create lesser priced options for people. You might have maybe one option of things that people can buy, but you have a lesser price thing. If you have something you charge $100 or $1,000 for, you have maybe that $20 option, something that's less expensive that you can use, something that's easy, something could be leveraged. I love recording things like webinars like these, right? Because they create leverage. I don't have to talk to each person individually. I can talk to a group of you all at once. And I can even talk to you while I'm sleeping, because you might be watching this in the middle of the night, right? And so that's awesome. I want to create that kind of stuff. I create audios. I create those kind of things, all to create more leverage, so that I can be able to create many to one, or one to many of you, be able to create more leverage of my time and ability and make more money that way. It's just awesome. One thing I learned when I retired was, how do I create more leverage? How do I create value in a way that can be serviced? Another way is raising prices. Most of you, if you're in business, you probably are charging too little for your services. You probably are. There's a few rare occasions I'm like, hey, you're good priced. I love it. But most of you, because you love what you do and you're passionate, you want to help people, you're probably charging too little. And I've seen this firsthand. I've seen people when they charge too little actually get very little response from people. When I started to charge more for my services, people valued it more and actually got better results. A lot of the stories I share with you, people are actually people that invested the most money with me to hire me. The ones that invested the least amount of money are usually the ones that got littler results, not because they didn't have the potential, but because they just didn't really commit to that level. And so I've noticed with a lot of people that if they haven't raised prices for a while, especially if it's been a few years, it's time to raise them. The lowest minimum wage employee gets a pay raise of at least 1 to 3% every year. Why shouldn't you? I had somebody that did not raise their prices for 12 years because they said, well, the economy's bad, I can't raise them. I said, you better raise it right now. We raised them about 50%. She was scared to death to do that. And I said, of course you are, but I promise you, hardly anybody will notice. And so she did. One person noticed, and then they still pulled out their card and paid it. Said, oh, you raised prices. What the most response she got from people was, I was wondering when you're going to raise your prices. I just didn't want to say anything because I enjoyed paying less. Well, of course they don't want to tell you to raise their prices. They want to keep paying less. They believe it's more than worth it. That's why they kept coming back. You want to actually get a few no's if you're in business. If you're always getting yeses, you're probably too cheap. So you probably want to raise it. Other ways to create income is always looking for ways to create value, like I said earlier. For me personally, I was able to create a lot of money because I was able to be a good middleman. I was able to connect people together. I used my talents and my skills to bring people together, and then the business owner would pay me for connecting them together. I get paid a referral fee. So I was really good at connecting people to create referrals. And so my brain was always on about how do I help solve this problem for somebody? How do I give them what they want? And pretty soon I had a friend that started calling me Mr. Hookups. He's like, man, I know if I ever need hookups with anybody, you've got somebody on deck. And so I'm going to go to you, Chris. I'm going to ask you and connect me. And I would ask the business owner, hey, do you have a referral fee or anything like that? Especially if I was going to send multiple referrals. There's a lot of times I don't always do that. But I do that kind of stuff. I use my gift of connecting people to be able to create a lot of money that way and create a lot of cash flow and use very little of my time, which is even better because the business owner does all the work. I just create the connection. That's fun. That's really fun. Lots of ways to create income. I'm telling you, there's tons of ways. You can become partners with somebody and actually bring your talents and gifts to them and work cohesively as it creates synergy, which can actually make you guys better together. You can do things like direct sales and network marketing where you can actually use a lot of your company's leverage. You can leverage a company's systems and things like that. I know some of you already do that kind of stuff. You can buy franchises. Did you know you can actually use IRA money to buy franchises and actually buy a franchise to then create income for you? That could actually become like your retirement, but it's pay you cash flow today, right? You could do real estate investing. I had one client that we're able to help him find an extra $1,250 a month of net cash flow, not including tax advantages and appreciation, equity he's building, all that kind of stuff. I mean, when it's all said and done, it's not just the $15,000 a year he's making from, by the way, just like 120 grand from his IRA. But we're actually, I mean, he's probably making close to like $30,000-$40,000 a year from that same money. Way better he was getting in the stock market. And that, I mean, again, results are never guaranteed with what we do here. And it's got to match up because as a steward, I want to make sure that whatever you do to help make more money is something you love. Because if you don't love it, it's just a job. I mean, why would you do something just for the money, just to make mailbox money or whatever it might be, if you really don't love it? I mean, then it's going to be a job. I remember I had a family member say, hey, if it keeps paying me every month, I'll love it. No, you won't. It'll be a stress. It will never have financial freedom in that scenario. So you have to be careful. So anyways, those are some of the 5 of just the many we can do. But I get a lot of people that'll say, Chris, I would love to implement on these things, but I just don't have the time. My life is so crazy, it's hectic. I am that chick with my head cut off, right? Like, listen, you do have time. There's always time for things you prioritize. Also, I get a lot of people that say, I don't want to feel restricted. I don't blame you. I don't want to be restricted either. This is why I don't want you to live off rice and beans. This is why if you've seen my ebook online on moneyripples.com, it's called Beyond Rice and Beans, right? Because I don't want you just to live off rice and beans. I want you to live passionately and love life, enjoy life right now, and have a bright future as well. Not just sacrificing and suffering in hopes that the future might be better. And so, no, this is not about being cheap. I don't want you to be in those chains, in bondage from what every other person is telling you to do. That is ridiculous. It has not worked for decades and will continue not to work forever. So why keep doing it? It's got to require something different. The real question you should be asking yourself is, am I truly committed, or am I just promising empty calories like Doritos, right? I call this Dorito promises. It's just empty calories, no real value, no real nutrition. You got to have that real commitment there. Are you truly committed to change your life in a way that will just create great value, make your life richer, fuller, and wealthier right now and in the future? That's the thing, is that when you start to work because you want to, not because you have to, because you love what you do, not because you have to keep doing what you do. And I've had great people I've been able to bless their lives. Many of you might know the author of Jackrabbit Factory, Leslie Householder. I've known her since really like 2007, 2008, being able to help her in so many ways, and her husband Trevin, and really be able to be blessed to watch their family grow and transition over time and things like that. And that's the kind of thing I want, is that, I want to help you over time. I want to help you get the very value that you need. But really what needs to change to do that is, one, you've got to know your numbers. You do have to be a steward of your money. You can't ignore it any longer. A law of attention says whatever you put your attention towards will expand and grow, but whatever you ignore will deteriorate and decay and leave you. If you ignore your health, it will leave you. You ignore your family and your relationships, they will leave you. And if you ignore your money, they will leave you too. But if you put a focus on it, you invest truly into that, you'll find that it'll expand and grow and become wealthier and more fuller and richer. That's what we want you to do with your money. So it has to be a new mindset around money. You have to have a steward perspective, not just a saver or a spender perspective like you've always been taught or always done in the past. You have to be willing to do what's right for you and your family. And you have to be willing to do it differently. And I'll tell you, it's just like George Costanza from Seinfeld. If you've ever seen Seinfeld, I love how he does the opposite. Opposite George. He just said if he did the opposite, he got different results. And that's the thing. You can't expect to do the same thing over and over and expect to get different results. It just doesn't happen. It takes a new perspective with new strategies, a new shift, and then you can get better results. One of my clients out in New York, it was funny. I didn't expect her to get as many results as she did. I thought she'd get decent results. But it shocked me when just some of the things we did in just the first few days, a few months, and because she took action quickly, she was able to free up over $2,300 a month, which for them was huge. This was like a 40% shot in the arm for their financial situation. It was awesome, really awesome. Again, I don't ever guarantee that, but it was awesome because I remember just with the fact that she was willing to do what was necessary, had the right mindset behind it, she got results very fast. So what's the answer? Like, what's the results? Here's what I want to have you guys consider today. I know some of you on this are already a part of this, which is awesome. Great, it's perfect. But I want to get people involved in the Wealth Accelerator Academy. I told you that I have a vision to save or make people $1 billion in the next 3 years. To create that vision, this is actually the answer to do that, because I would love to work with everybody one-on-one, but I just know it's not feasible. And I know not everybody is a great candidate for me. I don't want to bring in people in my program that aren't good candidates. And so this is a great way to be able to get introduced to those concepts, especially if what you're really looking for are results. Because what we have is, I say 6 months of education, it's really 6 lessons. This could be done in weeks, could be done in months, but most people usually get this done in a matter of weeks, sometimes days, but usually weeks. But you can go through these step by step. It's like, Chris, how do I find and free up cash? Chris, how do I keep it? How do I manage it? How do I make it all make sense and get more organized with it? And how do I make more money too? I actually answer all of these things with these 6 lessons that I give people on how to find and free up cash, keep it, and then make more of it. There's also group accountability. We got a Facebook group page where you can ask questions of me and of people in that group. I just had somebody ask me, they said, hey, can I ask people in the group a question? I said, yes, that's what it's there for. Absolutely, ask a question, because it's probably going to be a great question. So group accountability, and be able to have people hold you accountable as well. Mastermind with people, that's huge. When you start masterminding with like-minded people that all want to be wiser stewards and create more wealth. You also get access to my live monthly calls that I do. These are Q&A calls that I do once a month. You get access to that for about 6 months. Deeper in. So live monthly calls are awesome. Also, we've got audio curriculum, which is great. Like I mentioned that before. And there's a bonus Money League evaluation you could do towards the end. or one of my consultants can actually work with you one-on-one to give that personal attention. And so, anyways, I noticed, I think, I'm not sure if somebody's raising a hand or something, but if you have questions, you can definitely type in the chat box here at the bottom. So let me know if you have a question there for sure. Also, here's the thing: is who's it really for? It's for those people that are do-it-yourselfers. If you just want to do it yourself and do it at your own pace, this is perfect. Also, if you have limited time or limited money, this is perfect as well, because it's allowing you to work on your own pace, your own schedule, and it really, you'll see the investment, although it's a lot of value, will give you a great deal on this. Also, if you need to see results, you're like, Chris, I need to kick your tires a little bit. I want to see if what you're teaching really works. If you didn't see what the webinar really works, you'll see this here pretty soon. Maybe you want to get your spouse on board. Maybe you're all in, but you cannot get your spouse to see eye to eye, which happens almost every time, or at least, you guys might have the same desires, but it's really hard to have you guys really come together. I'll tell you, one of the coolest things is when I have people I've worked with, even people I've known me for years, work with me and able to get them talking as a couple for the first time in 35 years of marriage. I love that. I love hearing that stuff, that it not only created a lot of wealth, that created a lot of money for them, but also created wealth in the way of their relationship and their marriage, and they're talking about money like they never have before. And it's not talking with fights. It's talking from an abundant perspective, not a scarcity perspective. Huge. And again, you want more accountability and access to this. And so you learn ways, like I said, find and free up cash, how to pay off debt faster. People say, hey, I think I'm doing a pretty good job. I bet you we can do it more efficiently and do it faster. There's a method I teach called the cash flow index. It makes it so much easier and so much better. It's awesome. It's really awesome. So I teach about that. You can get more organized with your money. I get people all the time saying, Chris, like, okay, I'm doing some of this stuff, but I just don't feel like I'm organized. I don't even know where I am financially. This is exactly why you need to do this. Now, also ways to make more money in your business, right? How do we make more income and things like that we've mentioned. I talk about that. And then what's really the truth and lies? What's myth and what's truth? Because a lot of people are buying into financial myths that just aren't serving them, and they're wondering why they're stuck. If you feel stuck financially, it's probably because you've bought into a certain myth that isn't true. Whether it's about you or about money in general, you're buying into some myth that's probably limiting your ability for happiness and freedom and wealth. And no, I had one couple that it was cool. Just one little idea of what I taught here for Matt and Carrie made about a $2,600 a month difference. It was awesome. And I love that that's serving them, not just today. It wasn't just in the moment that we did it about 3 years ago, but it's serving them month after month, year after year. And they're able to apply those same principles over and over and over. And it just creates a whole new paradigm and a whole new world that you're a part of. And so if you want more cash flow and more money today, not just 20, 30, 40 years from now, but right now, you want more peace of mind. You want to be on the same page with your spouse partner. You want less stress and better quality of life to where you can live your life that you want today and tomorrow and have just more confidence in where you're at with your money. This is what you need to do. Now, by the way, as a bonus, you can come to our Wealth Empowerment Intensive. As a couple, I charge $997. You can either come, the one in April is pretty much full. I had 2 seats fill up. So if you're one of the few people, you can request April 24th through 25th. Actually, it's 23rd and 24th. That's the wrong date. 23rd and 24th. Thursday night, as well as Friday, where we really go into depth with these things. It's awesome. Or June 18th and 19th is the next one, and we're filling seats for that. We're already started to fill seats for this one. If you want to come to that as well, that's also bonused in with this. So in total, that's over $2,000 of value that we normally charge for these separately. But for you guys that are watching this, and this is even for you guys watching the recording, you have a limited amount of time to watch this video and act on this. You have till the end of this weekend. That's only going to be $247. Which, by the way, that's half the price what you would pay just to come to my event at the early bird discount price. That's actually a quarter of the price you would pay to come to the event. That's $247. That's for 2 tickets to that event, plus the Wealth Accelerator group that you're a part of, getting access to calls and everything else. Awesome program, and so I'd love to have you there. This is only available really because there really is. I mean, it's not a lot of profit in me for this, but again, I want to be able to influence and bring people in and create a bigger ripple effect in your life. The 247 actually applies really to the first 6 of you that want to take advantage of this. So first 6 people that do this is the price you get. Otherwise, it does go up more to the normal price. So you have till the end of this weekend to do that. I'd love to be able to serve you. Again, I want to create a ripple effect. It doesn't just affect you personally. And when I had that vision about 2.5 years ago, the ripple effect I want to create, I've seen what's done for individuals' lives. when it can expand beyond you and your friends and family and your community and people around you, so that you're all having wealthier conversations, more abundant conversations. I mean, how would that be, right? And that expands out to across your area, across the country, and across the world. That ripple effect has to start with you. I want to bless your life as much as possible, as much as I possibly can. And so, man, allow me to do that. So to register, to be able to take advantage of this, I need you to first come, first serve. Email me. I'm going to type it in here in the chat box here, just so there's no mistake. That's chris@moneyripples.com. That's CHRIS at moneyripples.com. Would love to be able to serve you any way I can. If there's any way I can serve you, and especially your spouse, your family, I mean, I want to create a ripple effect through your lives, and it's got to start now. I mean, I don't know how many days I have left on this planet, but I know I've got a lot of work to do, and I have this stewardship of time that I've got a passion, I got a mission, and I want to bless people's lives, and I want you to be a part of that. So if this is something that speaks to you, awesome. If it doesn't speak to you, I'm cool with that too. But if it's something that really speaks to you, please email me, and let's take advantage of it. And as a reminder, remember, it's that cash flow that creates freedom. By the way, that cash flow I created my life that got me to the point where I could retire was only about $4,000 or $5,000 a month. It wasn't a lot. It might feel like a lot to you, but it a lot of effort and a lot of focus really can happen over the. I mean, if you can create that in just 5 to 10 years, maybe if it takes 20 years, that's a lot better than never getting it. Because you follow the same old advice that everybody's giving you right now, you'll never get it. And especially if people are telling you to invest outside your business, that's not cool. It's got to invest first and foremost in who you are and what you can control and what you create freedom from. If you're in business, this is definitely something you need, because there's really nobody teaching you how to do this in a way that your business is the #1 investment, and you're able to have all your money support you in your business, not distract you and make it worse. It's all about creating that freedom, that prosperity right now. You can live that life that you love. You can do what you love. The money will follow, and because people know you're creating great value in their lives, and they want to have more of you in their life. Please do not let money be the thing that limits you from being able to express yourself fully, where you can bless more lives, because you say, I can't afford to be able to play at a bigger level and blessing more lives. That should never be the excuse. Please let me help you be able to get past that. So anyways, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. You guys have been so awesome, so amazing. Thank you for letting me serve you. And you guys have a wonderful day. And we'll see you later. And I'll see you, some of you, when I get back to Utah again. Talk to you later.